What if I told you that the only thing standing between you and your wildest, most badass life is your habits? Not your job, not your bank account, not your past mistakes, just your habits. And the kicker? You created them, which means you can recreate them. Today, we're diving into Badass Habits by Jen Sincero. And I'm telling you right now, this book isn't your typical self-help checklist. It's a bold, hilarious, and fire-starting blueprint for breaking free from your old patterns and becoming the kind of person you've always wanted to be. So if you've ever found yourself saying things like, ugh, I always procrastinate, or I wish I could stick to a workout routine, then grab your favorite drink, sit back, and let's rebuild your habits from the inside out. Before we dive into the juicy stuff, let's talk Jen Sincero for a second. You probably know her from her global phenomenon, You Are a Badass, which transformed millions of lives. But Jen wasn't always a best-selling author with a badass empire. She was broke, living in a garage, writing for a living but barely surviving, until she decided enough was enough. She started studying self-development, money, mindset, neuroscience, and yes, habits. And that's when everything changed. Badass Habits is her deep dive into the real stuff that rewires your brain and sets you up for permanent positive change. Now let me ask you this. Do you even know what your habits are? I'm not talking about brushing your teeth or checking Instagram before bed. I mean the subtle, sneaky thought habits. The inner monologue that says, I'm not disciplined, or I'm always late, or I can't lose weight because my family's just built that way. Those are habits. And in Jen's words, they are just as important to shift as your physical routines. So she breaks it down like this: every habit, whether good or bad, starts with an identity. Think about it. If you see yourself as a runner, you'll naturally run. If you believe you're a hot mess, you'll act like one. That's why the first step in Badass Habits is identifying the story you're telling yourself and changing it. Here's a real-life story from the book. Jen talks about a woman named Stacy. Stacy always described herself as the flaky one among her friends. She'd cancel plans, miss deadlines, leave texts unread for days. She wasn't proud of it, but she thought, that's just who I am. So Jen had her do something radical. Instead of focusing on what not to do, she had Stacy declare a new identity. I am someone who honors her commitments, not wants to be someone, not hopes to be, just is. From there, they built small habits that aligned with that identity. Stacy started setting phone reminders to respond to texts immediately. She created a checklist of weekly tasks, and every time she showed up for something she would have flaked on before, she wrote it down and celebrated it. Within a few weeks, her friends noticed. One even said, "You're like reliable now." That's the power of changing the story. And that's the second core idea. Jen pounds into our heads. Consistency builds belief. You don't believe you're a badass because you chant affirmations once. You believe it when your actions back it up. Jen compares it to building a muscle. You don't walk into the gym once and expect abs. You go again and again. You show up even when it's inconvenient, even when nobody's watching, even when you fall off and have to start again. Now here's the best part. Jen gives us a habit formula that makes this ridiculously doable. It goes like this. Step 1. Choose a habit that aligns with your desired identity. Step 2. Get clear on your why. Why does this habit matter? What pain are you avoiding? What joy are you chasing? And then here's the key: tie that habit to a trigger. Want to meditate daily? Tie it to brushing your teeth. Want to journal every night? Put your notebook on your pillow. This is classic habit stacking, but Jen makes it personal, loud, and unapologetically you. She also adds an ingredient most habit books miss: swagger. In her world, changing habits isn't just about discipline. It's about energy. It's about attitude. It's about walking into a room and owning the fact that you're someone who drinks green juice, writes thank you notes, and runs 5 miles before breakfast because you decided that's who you are. Let me tell you another story from the book. Jen met a guy named Derek who wanted to stop smoking. Not because he hated smoking, but because he hated that smoking controlled him. So instead of just quitting cold turkey, Jen had him create a badass version of himself who didn't smoke. This alter ego was named Boss Derek. Boss Derek didn't hang around the smoking area. He chewed mint gum, hit the gym, when cravings hit, and made a list of reasons why he was more powerful than a cigarette. Over time, the identity of Boss Derek took over. Eventually, the old smoking habit felt like a betrayal of who he really was. That's the shift. And it's all mental. Another concept Jen introduces is the habit sabotage squad. These are the inner critics, self-doubts, and even well-meaning friends and family who keep you small. Ever had someone say, "You've changed like it's a bad thing?" Yeah, those people. Jen says you have to lovingly but firmly protect your growth. One tip she gives is to create a badass support team. People who hold you accountable, celebrate your wins, and remind you who you are when you forget. This isn't fluffy woo-woo stuff. It's science. When we change our social environment, we change our standards. You hang out with people who run marathons? Suddenly running 3 miles doesn't seem crazy. You start weekly calls with someone else building new habits? Now you've got momentum. You've got backup. You've got community. Now let's talk about how long it takes to lock in a habit. You've heard 21 days, right? Jen says forget the number. It's not about time. It's about reps. You can do something for 30 days and still not believe it's part of you. But if you show up daily, track it, and celebrate it, your brain starts locking it in. She encourages people to write down their new identity on sticky notes, to say it out loud every morning, to visualize themselves doing the thing before they do it. Because the brain doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. One of my favorite exercises from the book is the Habit Manifesto. You write a short paragraph, declaring your new habit, your identity, and your why. Then you read it out loud every day for 62 days. Why 62? Because it's long enough to push through the excitement, the boredom, and the relapse and emerge with real change. Here's an example from a reader Jen worked with named Alyssa. She wanted to stop emotional eating. So her manifesto went like this. I am someone who nourishes her body with love and intention. I eat when I'm hungry, not when I'm bored or sad. I find joy in movement, peace in stillness, and power in my choices. Powerful, right? Alyssa read that aloud every morning before breakfast. She paired it with journaling, meal planning, and weekly check-ins with a friend. By the end of 2 months, she wasn't just eating differently. She was thinking differently, feeling differently, being different. Now I want to ask you something. What's a habit that's been holding you back? And what would your identity be if you dropped it? Take a second. Picture that version of you. What do they do? How do they talk? What do they not tolerate? That version of you is not some fantasy. It's just a few consistent choices away. That's the fire Jen Sincero lights under you in badass habits. She's not whispering self-help affirmations. She's shouting truth bombs with a megaphone and a leather jacket. She's reminding us that we're not victims of our routines. We are the authors. We can delete the old scripts and write new ones. And we don't need permission. We just need commitment. One more powerful concept before we wrap. Jen calls it habit stacking with soul. Instead of just creating habits that make you productive, create habits that make you feel alive. She challenges you to add something joyful to every new routine. Want to wake up earlier? Pair it with blasting your favorite music. Want to save money? Turn it into a game and track your wins with gold stars like a kindergartner. Want to speak kindly to yourself? Say your affirmations while looking into your eyes in the mirror, like you mean it. She reminds us you're not here to survive. You're here to thrive. So every habit should be a love letter to the person you're becoming. Now let's pause for a second. If you're still here, I want to ask you to drop in the comments. What's one badass habit you're going to commit to this month? Write it down, own it, declare it. And while you're at it, like this video if it lit a fire in you. Subscribe if you want more real, no BS breakdowns of life-changing books. And share this with a friend who needs that gentle but powerful shove toward their next level. You're not lazy. You're not broken. You're just running old code. But starting today, you write the new script. and it's going to be badass.